want to write down, this is notebook 1, entry 150. I want to write down a dream I had of Saint Thérèse of the Child Jesus. I was still a novice at the time and was going through some difficulties which I did not know how to overcome. They were interior difficulties connected with exterior ones. I made novenas to various saints, but the situation grew more and more difficult. The sufferings it caused me were so great that I did not know how to go on living. But suddenly the thought occurred to me that I should pray to Saint Thérèse of the Child Jesus. I started a novena to this saint because before entering the convent, I had a great devotion to her. Lately, I had somewhat neglected this devotion, but in my need, I began to pray again with great fervor. On the 5th day of the novena, I dreamed of Saint Thérèse, but it was as if she were still living on earth. She hid from me the fact that she was a saint and began to comfort me, saying that I should not be worried about this matter, but should trust more in God. She said I suffered too greatly, too, but I did not quite believe her and said, "It seems to me that you have not suffered at all." But Saint Thérèse answered me in a convincing manner that she had suffered very much and said to me, "Sister, know that in 3 days the difficulty will come to a happy conclusion." When I was not very willing to believe her, she revealed to me that she was a saint. At that moment, a great joy filled my soul, and I said to her, "You are a saint?" "Yes," she answered, "I am a saint. Trust that this matter will be resolved in 3 days." I said, "Dear, sweet Thérèse, tell me, shall I go to heaven?" And she answered, "Yes, you will go to heaven, sister." "And will I be a saint?" To which she replied, "Yes, you will be a saint. But little Thérèse, shall I be a saint as you are, raised to the altar?" And she answered, "Yes, you will be a saint just as I am, but you must trust in the Lord Jesus." I then asked her if my mother and father would go to heaven. And then the sentence is unfinished. She replied that they would. I further asked, "And will my brothers and sisters go to heaven?" She told me to pray hard for them, but gave me no definite answer. I understand that they were in need of much prayer. This was a dream. And as the proverb goes, dreams are phantoms. God is faith. Nevertheless, 3 days later, the difficulty was solved very easily, just as she had said it was. And everything in this affair turned out exactly as she said it would. It was a dream, but it had great significance. You know, I can't help but recognize the striking similarities between Saint Faustina, Saint Thérèse of Lisieux, Blessed Mother Teresa, and even Venerable Solanus Casey, the saints of our times. It's so profound. I was gifted by Amanda and Becky my birthday with a book from Mother Teresa, Blessed Mother Therese, on her last journey. I Loved Jesus in the Night is the title of the book, and it is profound. It's this new understanding about the darkness that Blessed Mother Teresa suffered. One of the things was that I never knew, one of the facts is that Blessed Mother Teresa wanted to be named when she became a sister after Saint Thérèse. She wanted the little Thérèse. And because there was another Saint Teresa in the convent, she had to take the name of Thérèse. Therese of Avila. Boy, those two are tongue-tired. But anyway, the long and the short of it, there's a lot in common that they have, and I think one of the most striking things, in fact, was their great saintly understanding. As small as they were and as large as they are, but their great saintly understanding of the thirst of Christ. And they'll both say the same things. All of them will say the same things. How profound is the thirst of Jesus Christ for each one of us, that even in our most greatest needs for God, that thirst is no comparison at all to the thirst of Jesus Christ for our love. They both said, and the others have said, that Jesus Christ has a greater thirst, a greater need for our love than we have of his. I got to sit back for a second to kind of unpack that a little bit. No human being could ever, short of the Virgin Mary, understand the love, the capacity of love that Jesus has for aching mankind. Our brain will never get there. Maybe one day in infinity, when we're with God. God, in his creating each human being, created each human being one by one, as he revealed, out of his great love. And so the great need, thirst of Jesus Christ is that we all be with him together in heaven, all together in eternity. A need much greater and much deeper than we as human beings in our limited understanding will ever match Christ. We can't. And so when Jesus revealed to Saint Teresa, Saint Thérèse, Blessed Mother Teresa, I thirst. It was Jesus Christ on the cross, in that great agony and suffering, amidst the persecutions, humiliations, the spit, the horrible torture that he endured at that time of his crucifixion, recognizing that there were people walking all around totally indifferent to his suffering. His great thirst on the cross and today, much farther than we will ever be able to understand the love. His greatest thirst and need is for us to be with him. It's the thirst for souls. And so they both, all of them, recognized Jesus Christ in the sick and in the poor, and in the little way, as St. Thérèse says. Venerable Solanus Casey, if you will, worked every day of his life sitting and listening and praying for the sick and the poor. Many of who, people were in our time here that visited him, and many, many blessings and healings. He saw the face, he saw the thirst, he saw the need in each person that he encountered, but he knew the thirst that Jesus had for souls. Saint Thérèse of Lisieux recognized from way early on, when she was just a spoiled brat, when she thought that she was doing everybody a great favor by simply making a bed. She lost her mother at 4 years old. The world came crashing down. And she went through a dark depression, sorrow. Her oldest sister stepped in and became her mother. And then when she entered the convent, again, a great sorrow pierced the heart of St. Thérèse. But great conversion happened in that. Shortly after that, she got very sick. Very sick. They thought she was going to die. And as they were all around her bedside praying before the statue of Our Lady, St. Thérèse gazed up to see what they were doing, realized that they were praying before the statue of Our Lady for her intercession. And she saw the statue smile at her, and immediately an even greater conversion happened in her heart, and she was instantaneously healed. There are a lot of things that we need to pay a great amount of attention to. One, that conversions do happen, and they are ongoing. That, it's really critical that we realize that in this process of life, this process of becoming a saint, because we're all called to that, it doesn't usually happen overnight. It's through instances of conversions and ongoing conversions that these things happen. And so St. Thérèse would simply say, so what if I make her prayer time that would drive her crazy, that she would offer that up and it would become a melodious tune in her heart? Those things are real. Those things we can really do if we stop and we realize the thirst of Jesus Christ for ourselves to grow in holiness, and we truly open our hearts to His grace that helps us to get there. We so often go through times beating ourselves up because of the falls that we make, the sins that we make. And Satan's all over that. He loves that. That's where he wants us to be, because that's when the addictions and drinking and all of that stuff comes into play. We try to find all kinds of ways of either rationalizing or numbing all of that. But the fact remains, I don't know any one person who has truly gone through a real conversion experience that would ever go back to the way they were before. I mean, how many people here have gone through a real conversion experience? I mean, at some point in your life, you came to realize that God was real and He was in your life, and you wanted to make a change in your life. And afterwards, notice, really, raise your hands high. Yeah, almost everybody here, almost. And so, would any of you want to go back to the way before your conversion? Raise your hand if you would like to go back. Not one person. Because what happens in that experience is that God is continuing to, in His thirst, in His need. And that's an important word, need. God, Jesus Christ, has a need for your ongoing conversion. More than you could ever understand, or I, more than we could ever possibly love. We put all of this emphasis on ourselves. I have to love God more, I have to do more, but the emphasis is on Christ and what Christ does for us. And it's only in that, and by His grace alone. But it's us that has to open our hearts. Then there's no need for alcohol. There's no need for drugs and medication, so to speak. I'm talking about addictions. There's no need for pornography. I don't know anybody who's involved in pornography who doesn't feel miserable about themselves. Deep inside. In that short start of being attracted and coming into that. It's for a short moment, but after that, not one sin, after it's committed, makes you feel wonderful, makes you feel euphoric, makes you feel like you never, ever want to leave. Not one sin. That's the trap. No one can love you. No one needs you more than Jesus Christ Himself. No one. We will never understand this love. God will give us everything we need. And so whatever it is, whatever hardship that we face, he doesn't say, pick up your marbles and run away. He just asks us to persevere. Keep trying. If an end of the road comes to an end, don't look at it as the end. It's not the end until God says so. It simply is a bend, unless you stop. If you stop, if you give up, if you give in to temptation, which God gives us every good thing to overcome and to resist, then it's the end, but it's you who does that end, not God. God has a need. Jesus has a need and a thirst for you to be one with him, even while you're on this earth. And to almost everything that I have read of any saint, even the modern day saints especially, they all had encounters with Christ. And many people I've talked to over all of these 20-something years in ministry, sharing their heart, their story, their conversion experience, whatever it is. Many, most encounter Jesus on some level, some way. And it's real. It's life-changing. And that's a gift. It's a gift to you, and it's a gift to me. And when we feel like there is no way, or that it's the end, think of that conversion. And if you can't think of your own, think of the blesseds, the venerables, and the great saints. Today, Saint Thérèse of Lisieux, doctor of the church, who had very difficult time meditating on a mystery of the rosary. It was very difficult. Her mind would wander off. But what did she say even about that? Oh, well, I will just simply pray for the person who caused my mind to wander off, and therefore brought great holiness to a situation which could have been a downfall to her. She could have spent hours saying, how miserable wretch I am. I'm not as holy as the other, contemplatives here. I can't even do this. I can't even do that. Oh, gosh. How many times do we hear that? I can't do this. I can't. God never talks to me. God never talks to you if he doesn't. Because you simply aren't sitting still. You aren't being quiet, and your heart's not open to hearing him, because God speaks to everybody, one way or another. In the silence of your heart, God is speaking to you. His thirst is greater than anything we can imagine. His love for you and his desire is something that we'll never comprehend. And he doesn't say we have to be perfect people. All he says is try. Try. It's his business to work on the perfection end of things. He'll get us to where we need to be if our hearts are open to him. There's nothing too big for Jesus Christ. It may not be what you have in your mind or the way that you want something, but he knows what you need. He knows what I need. And every time I look back over my life, and I had remembered of times that I came before him, and if I had this, I could do this. If only I would do this. If only I knew that. If only this wouldn't have happened. And then, by the grace of God, just go through this situation. Years later, look back on that situation and realize, thank God that didn't happen. Or, you know what? Even in spite of that hardship, God gave me to override that. And even greater things came from it. Things I have no understanding of at that time. So I encourage you, do not be limited by only what your eyes see. That's a terrible limitation. Go to the tabernacle of your soul where Jesus resides from communion to communion. Let him direct your path. Trust in him. And all the other stuff is fluff. What you need is Jesus Christ and his direction. You get that in the sacraments. It comes to you intimately in your prayer time and contemplation. He'll tell you, he'll help you. Don't beat yourself up. He doesn't want you to do that. He doesn't want you sitting there feeling guilty and feeling like you can't, if you would have been born in a different family, something would have been different, etc., etc., etc. Whatever you have on your table, deal with it with Christ. Let him deal with it. Just keep trying. He'll give you the way. Praise be Jesus Christ.
No.